No. You're on. You have to.
And this is recording in progress. How long do you want me to stay on the screen? Is that long enough? I guess long enough. All right. So I'm in the awkward position of reading my own bio here, so I'm just going to paraphrase. I've lived in St. Louis since '94. I do have a background in counseling. That's what I did for almost 30 years of my life. I worked with recovering addicts, alcoholics, teenagers, and young adults. And so and like this says, I feel like I was able to bring a lot of those skills into real estate. That's part of what I think has made me successful, is the fact that one, not being afraid of a lot of people, because once you work with that many families in those kind of situations, you learn everybody's kind of got their own stuff. Two, just the art of connection with people and the willingness to be connected to people. I think that's very important. As everybody knows, it's an agent. We end up spending half of our time being counselors or therapists or all kinds of things, because especially in a market like it is right now, where it gets scary with people go through a lot of stuff. So that's definitely a skill set that's helped a lot. Past that, what I want to talk about, and I love this last line, and I try to live up to this, where it says, combine the art of relationship with an ever-growing knowledge of the housing market and a joyous relentlessness to fully serving my clients. And that's the piece. It's not just serving people, but it's doing it and having fun doing it, and making sure I continue to keep that fun, and keep that exciting with people, because I think people really know where we're at. I don't think we hide our stuff as well as we think we do a lot of times. So I think that's a key piece of it. And the last part here, I got to say, what spawned, I think, a lot of this is last month I had my biggest month ever. It was 6.6 million closed, which is pretty cool. Which truthfully was a lot of hard work, and it was also kismet. Like, everything kind of fell together at once. And I'll say what I said when they announced that amongst the team, which was, it was very much a team thing, in my opinion, because the amount of stuff I've learned from everybody and help that people have given me, and specifically, Neil and Matt in the luxury market, Sarah's given me a lot of help, like everybody, it was very much a team win. So we'll jump into this. I'm going to give a quick market update. It was kind of funny because John usually steps in here and talks about the rates and so forth. So I texted John before this. I'm just going to read this to everybody because it's funny to me. I just said, hey, what are the rates today? He says, mid to high sevens, getting killed since Thursday. I said, what about jumbos or arms? Jumbo same, and maybe high 6 or low 7 for arms. I was like, okay. I was like, good, smiley face, being sarcastic. And I said, any relief coming? He said, could be a rough fourth quarter, may not see relief till Q1 of next year. We'll see how the economy does for the next couple months. So that's as of today. So it's a pretty, it's a rough day out there. But as this thing is done, it's changed a lot, and it changes week to week and bounces back and forth. But you know what? Myself, a lot of the agents in this room, a lot of people on this team have done phenomenal in this quote unquote impossible market. So, I'm grateful for when I started, and it's not like I've been doing this forever. This is really my fourth full year of real estate. I've been on team since 2019. But I've never done real estate in a normal market. Like, I started and it was kind of normal, and then COVID. And then, so it's always been something. And I think, talking to agents that have been doing a lot longer than I have, I guess there has been periods where it was a little more tranquil, but I think with real estate, there's always a thing. It's more this way, or it's more that way, or it's it's like there's always something affecting. So I think we have to have a mindset of almost being, immune to anything that's necessarily going on out there, because for me, I hear those things as excuses to not succeed. And I don't mean that arrogantly. I don't mean that, but that's my mindset. And I think that's part of why I have the success I do. I go, it's not, oh, we can't, because it's like, okay, that's just an obstacle that we got to get around, and so that's how I see it. I'm going to go, this is a quick, overview. I'm going to go through basically, this started out as millionaire mindset and then $1 million mindset. It's the same thing. What we're going to talk about today is I have had a lot of success in the luxury market. And Mark and Sarah asked me to talk about, like, what do you do that's different? How do you see these buyers? How do you do this thing? So I'm going to get into that. Now, I'm going to very transparent. I wrote down some good bullet points and some things you can grab onto, some ways of thinking. But to me, this is a really simple process. Now, it's simple and it's got a lot of moving parts in that. But to me, the basic overview is have confidence in who you are and don't be scared of people. You know what I mean? And understand that money doesn't really change anything. And I don't look at it in the sense of this money thing or that. And so I'm not intimidated by it. part of that's my experience. Part of that's, just kind of knowing people are people, and I'll get into that more as I go, but that's the basic overview, and if we treat everybody with the ways that we're taught to treat them as people and take care of our clients, then the money shouldn't really matter anyway, and in fact, I think it's easier to do high dollar deals because people have more money. They don't sweat a $5,000 repair. They don't, it's like, that's like, oh, whatever, when it's a $10,000, repair on a, $1.8 million deal, they're a little more open to it. Although one of the most stringent, I'll tell this and we'll get going. One of the most stringent buyers I ever had was the second biggest deal I've ever done. And he almost walked over a $200 fee on a survey and it was all ego. It was all, and he owned it. He was like, screw this guy. He's nickel and dime me to death. He's like, I'm not paying it. So we got the other guy to pay and it worked out, but it's like, yeah, people can be petty on all levels. So, all right. So we'll jump in here. I keep popping that up. Sorry about that. Mindset or just set is the way it is on mine.
No, you're right. Mindset.
I know I was moving that over, so it went in. All right, there we go. Believe that you deserve to be there, and this is kind of what I was touching on. And this to me is it's first because it's most important. Believe you're a first-class citizen. What do I mean by that? Again, some of these terms will cross over from my counseling years and so forth and that. So I'll explain as I go. But it's believing that nobody's better than you, but also believing nobody's worse than you, and that is to me very important just for human beings, to treat people as equals. And that doesn't mean everybody's the same, but everybody has equal value, and usually people are better with that outside of themselves and worse inside of themselves. Like I can go, oh no, everybody's equal except me, I suck. It's like people have their own low self-worth in different areas. And this is one where it's going, you know what? And this is even preceding knowledge of the market and all these things we'll get into, which those help this process. But ultimately it's going, my value isn't determined by what you think of me. And my value isn't determined by these exterior things, because as long as it is, I'm never in control of my own self-worth. Right. So that's really what, going, I know I'm a first-class citizen. That's what that means. Sarah loves this one. You don't have to sit in first class to know that you belong there. This is an old one from one of my mentors back in the day. And what he would talk about is again, it's kind of, value in self. He would talk about literally being on a plane and he would look up and he would see, and they had a little curtain, like somehow that, that world goes away when they close that curtain. And, he'd always go through this stuff like, man, I wish I deserved to be up there. And he talked to one of his mentors. He's like, you deserve to be up there. You're just, it's not that you're less value. You're just sitting in a different part of the plane, and I look at that because a lot of these clients, I say they have way more money than I do. You know what I mean? So it's not like it's more of a mentality of I can hang with anybody and I do belong in this situation. I do belong in this arena, and I'm working towards being sitting in first class. So there's a lot of mentalities towards sitting that if you look at it. So, which I am flying first class to Turks and Caicos next week, which is hell yes, I am. It's my wife's 50th birthday. So we're celebrating. Yeah, it's going to be a great time. That's the payoff to the $6.6 million, right? So focus on the process, not the outcome. And this kind of repeats a little bit of that, but it's really just focused on, am I prepared? Sarah's laughing. It's making me laugh. So am I prepared to walk into this thing? Am I at my best? And that just I love, and Mark stresses and everybody stresses, know the market, know this, and we'll get into all that. But I'm talking about even without all of those things, that's an add-on. Am I ready? Am I in a place where, anything that's happened before this moment, I can blow it off? I think it was All That Jazz. There's the scene where the guy wakes up and he's like hungover and beat up and bags under his eyes and looks horrible. And he goes through this whole process. And at the very end of the scene, he like looks in the mirror and his face changed over and he goes, showtime. It's that scene. And that is kind of what we have to have. I do that driving up to an appointment. I do that before I make a phone call. It's like, who do I want these people to be presented with? And we all have that. We all have that happy spot. And it's really interesting. I truly believe you can act yourself into a new way of thinking. I don't really think you can think yourself in a new way of acting. It's like if I'm up here too much, it's like I just got to have a mode. I go into it and it's magical. Once I'll come home from showings and whatever was bothering me is kind of gone anyway. It's kind of interesting. So not only is it a gift to that client, I think it's a gift to self to go, hey, I want to be my best self when I enter this situation. I love this. Millionaires are just people, and I say it like that because I started with, I worked with a lot of people with a lot of issues in my counseling days, you know what I mean? And I also grew up in a lot of areas with a lot of money and things like that. And I can tell you my own family dysfunction, they had money. So I think from day one, I was given the gift of going, people are people. I also moved all over the country. I lived in, I think, like 15 different states before I was 18, right? So I saw a lot of different varieties of people. And it's like everybody's kind of got the same problems. Everybody's got a lot of times it's like the things that are important to people that make $30,000 a year, the same things that ultimately are important to people that it's like, and people have the same fears, and everybody's afraid of taxes, and it's just different amounts and varieties, right? So when we see it like that, and it goes back to the initial mindset I was talking about, is it's like, if I'm here, and this, I'll lead right into this, if I'm here kind of to be of service, and I can get out of this mindset of somebody's better than me because they have more zeros in their bank account, you know what I mean? And I just make it about, I'm here to serve these people, and they have problems just like anybody else. In fact, I think a lot of the people with money I've worked with had kind of weirder problems because they were insulated from a lot of life's consequences. I'll get into a little bit different kinds of mindsets as we go, but like, especially there's difference in people that come from old money and people that are kind of new money. Then they're very different mentalities. Somebody that's like a fifth, sixth generation Leduite, you know what I mean? And it's different. And like, they all know the same people. A lot of them didn't deal with any of it. It's really interesting. You know what I mean? So some of that is also being aware, but going, people ultimately are just people. And I think most people respond to somebody that's willing to get out of them and be into somebody else, whether they're crotchety people or happy people, or that people respond when people are present and being of service to them. And that kind of crosses over every barrier. So, and you know what, I think another big piece of the success with a lot of these guys is I give these guys shit no different than I would one of my friends. I treat them as friends. And magically, you know what I mean, they become friends. It's I don't go, yes, sir. Now I do have a legitimate respect, and my respect comes more usually in like kind of what they do in their profession. And then that'll transfer into respect for my profession, which is later in this thing. But this all feeds together in that I look at this part as going, I'm going to treat them like nobody else, and give them hell and play with them and like even make fun of them at times. And when you can get someone to laugh at themselves that you're working with, you got them. I mean, that's to me one of the best kind of crossover points. Don't do that too early, because don't just mess with somebody, because I've done that too. And they're like, what? Oh, never mind. You know what I mean? It's like, make sure you have the relationship before you give somebody a hard time, but there is a reality. And when we get that kind of connection as people, it's huge. It transcends all of it. Having fun with this. And I think this is key. Like, I enjoy the risk of rejection. I was talking to somebody about this. They're like, yeah, I'm the exact opposite of that. I'm like, for me, it's, if there's no risk of loss, it's not a fun challenge. Like, if it's just, I'm going to win, then that's not really that fun, and yes, high risk, high reward. So I look at it like, I mean, I told Sarah, I've made a lot of great deals happen. I've lost some $2 million deal. I mean, that has the other side of it. And it's high risk, high reward. And it's hard to not kick yourself after one that goes, man, that could have been this and this. We all do it. We all do it with the money we haven't made yet. It's like, that's part of human nature. But what I've learned to do is go, it's not really about money. And this leads into this. I look at it more like poker or chess. Mark always talks about make it a game. And I look at all of this like a game. You know what I mean? It's like, this guy has this, my job is to help them get to their goal. Here's the stuff we have to use to get to that goal, and we go from there. It's looking at, and I don't just look at the transaction of real estate as a game, but some of that's in the relationship piece, founding the relationship, kind of feeling out what can you get away with, what can that, until it gets to that state where it's more of a natural flow. That makes sense to everybody? Because that's I think a really, really important piece. All right, mindset. Can see if I can just turn one page without turning 6 here this time. Yay. All right, servant's heart. And I touched on this a little bit, but for me, it's like when because we all get insecure. We all have our insecurities, and it's easy when you're sitting there and these people pull up with, in their Bentley with their Gucci bags and their things. I think a lot of people can get intimidated by that. Okay. Like I said, I don't have that piece to get past as much. And I can tell you, my mentality with a lot of it is I never really had that same intimidation piece, like I said. But I look at this, I get intimidated by other stuff. And the way I transcend that is, like I said, I make it about serving that person. Because if I'm making it about you, I'm not thinking about me. If I'm focusing on your needs, it's not about my wants. And putting someone's needs in front of my wants, to me, is a true definition of service, you know? And weirdly, I end up turning around going, wow, I got everything I wanted anyway, and wasn't even thinking about it. In fact, I think the act of getting out of the way and being of service creates the wealth and the abundance in our life, you know. And I've seen that happen too much in my life to not believe it. You know, I was telling somebody, it was funny. I think I told you this. The big month. So I'm finishing up a house right now, right? We're like coming to that final stretch, last couple months. I know you guys have heard about this for like 3 years, but last couple months. And I'm buying a bunch of stuff out of pocket because I wanted to keep it out of the mortgage, appliances, things like that, right? Mm-hmm. Well, magically, and do I think that this is connected? Of course I do. Is I was like, I'm going to need X amount. Well, that was the biggest month, and it was all there plus some, which is like, don't tell me that that's not connected. Of course it is. I believe that if we truly believe it and we can do it, we will manifest it in our lives. I truly believe that. But it's not like The Secret. See, a lot of people got on this thing, The Secret, a while ago, and like, well, if you just believe it, it'll appear. No, you have to do the work, right? One of the guys in that video said, you can sit and meditate all day long, but if you don't go to work, they're going to come take your furniture. And it's like, it's a balance. Believing in it. But I also believe you can do the work all you want, but if you don't believe you'll achieve it, I don't think you will, or I think we will sabotage it. Mm-hmm. Just my own personal experience. So this is a no-brainer for this team, but I say, just to put it in perspective, you know, have the same core values you would have with a 200K buyer that you would have with a $3 million buyer, you know, and it goes back to everything we've been talking about. It's like, people are people. And I do, like, I'm one of my favorite situations right now is my very first deal I ever did. They wanted me to list their house. She got pregnant. They had to back out for a while. And then he called me and was like, hey, we talked to another agent and they're going to do this cheaper and da-da-da-da. Well, I'm still new to the listing area, right? So I call Mark and I'm like, what can we do that? He's like, and Mark gave me no, we're not taking less because we're doing this. And he gave me the thing. I went and delivered that with the same confidence I do this stuff. They're sticking with us and didn't even mention a rate break at that point, which to me was really, really cool, because that was an area I'm more insecure because I don't know it as well. And I was able to just believe it, get confidence in it, and follow through with it. So it was really, really cool. Same skill set, same methods. And this is just honest, you know, if I can make a bunch of money while serving the hell out of my clients, that's the dream, you know. And I mentioned in here later, and I'll say it again. It's like, yes, when I started, I had a piece of like, don't get me wrong, I'd love to sell 40 houses in a year, but if I can sell, you know, 15 to 20 and make as much money as I did if I did that, that's pretty cool too, you know. So then when I sell 40, I'll be making, you know, that's just how my head works, you know. It's like, and like I said, once I got the taste of doing the luxury deals, I went, this is what I wanted to do, and this isn't anything more difficult. Like I said, in some ways I think it's easier if you can get past the personality piece. It's, you know, that's what I prefer. So I look at it like that, and I go, that's also means if where I do treat, and I treat anybody with this respect, and this is where it's relative, you know, that lower price point buyer, that's the most money they can spend. Well, this higher, they're in that same situation a lot. So my thing is, I'm going to show up, and we talked about kind of that white glove service. I'm going to give my best. You know, they're asking for that. I'm in that situation, get blessed with that level of money that's going to come out of that. Then it's like, then they're going to get my best foot every time I step in there, right? Defining my business, and this is a fun one. So, and this is a lot of this. Mark helped me a lot with this, because, you know, I wanted to just get in and do nothing but sell $9 million houses, and that would be it, just 2 a year. You know, I'm just kidding. But I like every deal I wanted to be, and he was like, dude, you got to hit singles and doubles, you know what I mean? And it's like, you'll hit home runs if you're just swinging the bat well. And again, this goes back to that, you know, doing the processes right, doing the things right that we learn, you know what I mean? And for me, I do that and then combine it with this mentality. And it's like, of course I'm going to hit home runs and maybe a grand slam now or then, you know what I mean? But singles still are good, and these things, and those turn in, you know, I've got a client right now that I sold him like a $350,000 house. Now they're in the luxury realm. This is a software guy. He's made a bunch of money on this. So it's like, those turn into those too. And even if they don't, those people still deserve that same level of care and focus. Right. So, covered that one about selling those houses. I've said this over and over again, and I'll explain this a little bit more. Like I said, it's some of the thing that makes the high dollar transactions easier is a lot of times it's not these guys' first rodeo. A lot of them have sold and bought houses, you know what I mean? So they're used to a lot of the ups and downs. but it's also easier when sometimes I'll trip out. I won't realize till after the deal. Like we negotiated back and forth and we got this and we got, 120K off the price of this house. I go, yeah, that's cool. I wish we could have done better. And then I go, that's like another house. Like if you think about, what I mean? Like you don't think about that stuff till after the fact. It's kind of interesting. So, questions to this point, anything else? Well, we still got mindset. All right, cool. Anything else I can, elaborate on a little bit more? Anything like that?
Good, keep going.
Cool. All right. Simple strategy. This is kind of newer since I started listing. And this is basically what I do in my business. I like open houses. I like VoicePad. I like where I am. Don't get me wrong. I like, normal leads too. But these I seem to have a lot of success with because I think the seeds of the relationship are planted in that first impression. You know what I mean? People don't usually forget me after meeting me. That's a blessing of the fur face, but also personality and also connection. And I make sure, like, we've traveled together. I don't know a stranger, you know what I mean? And I make sure to do that at open houses and so forth. But now it's turned into, if I'm holding these higher dollar open houses open, then I meet them. Well, obviously they're going to have another cool house to sell. So now this is turning into two sides of the deal, which was a big part of that record month. And so I focus on that. White glove service, like I talked about, which is incorporating that attention to detail. And it's detail in paperwork. It's detail in all kinds of things. I still focus very much, I'm not going to say I never make mistakes on paperwork, but to me, I really see the ripple effect. Like when how you do one thing is how you do everything, that whole process. Well, successful people that have, especially people that have earned a lot of money, they've done that because they pay attention to detail. They've done that because they use a lot of these. They may call this core value something different in their life, but they're using that same principle. And if I'm going to be this expert and present myself, I hate having to spend credit with them going, sorry, I made this mistake and the thing. And they'll fine and they love me for a lot of other reasons, but it's like I don't want to burn that respect and that trust over something that dumb that I can get right. And that's actually what helped me learn to do it, using spell check, things like that. It's my nemesis. This creates a luxury buyer pipeline, and I'll get into this a little bit more, but it's like some of these guys take a long time to sell. They're not necessarily going to buy tomorrow because they already own a cool house. So they're not like, man, I need a better house. They're like, it's got to be a lot better because I have an awesome house, so that's a lot of times the issue. Or some of them are just going, we're thinking about it. We have a kid on this. So there's a lot of patience involved with this. So I want to build up this luxury pipeline. Maintain relationships with forever clients. That's huge. I mean, I call these guys, a lot of these people have become my friends, just people that I connect with. I enjoy talking to them. I get sad sometimes at closings because I'm like, we just did a buy list thing together. So like last 6 months, we've been like in it together, and it's just kind of like, hey, bye. It's kind of odd, but that's huge because these people are a lot of luxury buyers like to move every few years. They have kids that are going to be coming that want to buy stuff. There's going to be a lot of opportunity, not to mention their friends, the other people they work with at Enterprise or things, or all the other big dollar jobs. And those guys are all going to come this way. So, just quick kind of recap and some new bits about attitude towards money. Have your own securities with money in order. Fear begets fear. Confidence begets confidence. And what I mean by that is simple. It's like if I'm in my own life experience, and I won't speak for anybody else, when I've been like afraid of money, I had a hard time making money. When I haven't been worried about it, it's flown easy. And ultimately, money equals security. It's not about having those dollars in your hand. It's about whatever that gives you security in. So I've had to learn to readjust my securities and go, I don't need that thing to be okay. I want that thing because it's awesome, but that's not my okayness. My okayness is my relationships, my marriage, that's what matters. So for me, if I'm making sure that's strong, I'm a lot less afraid of money. Right. And so that's just my own personal journey. Everybody's got their own stuff with it. And most people have different issues. People go, I have no issues with money right up until they don't have any or until their stuff gets threatened. And then you'll watch those issues come out. So, and that's whether you got $30 million or $30 in the bank, that's just reality. Because like I said, it's not really about the actual currency. It's about things associated. Talked about the playing poker thing. It's not money. It's there's a saying in poker where you play the hand, not the pot. And you can't just make your decisions based on what's in the middle. You got to make your decisions based on what are my outs, what's the best way to do it, how can I play this, what's this other person doing. There's a lot of strategy that goes into that. So that's more what I look at with that. I don't get afraid about it because those are just fun tokens, right? When you're not afraid of money, I just covered that. I believe we manifest what we truly expect. Talked about that. Focus on serving. It will alleviate a lot of the fear of money. And that's, I said this earlier, but I'll tie that all together. It's like, if again, the money, so all of that's making it about me. What am I going to get? What am I going to lose? What am I going to gain? If I'm already buying stuff with the commission before, what I mean? It's like that, all of that stuff. We've all done it, right? But it's more pulling it back to go, this isn't about me, including what's in it for me. It's about serving the other person, because what's in it for me is going to take care of itself, right? So out of mindset into relationships. Oops, I backmasted there. Snip. Know your clients. I touched on this earlier. Most of these people that I work with, they're experts in their own field. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're software guys. You know what I mean? And a lot of how I equate expertise is I get into understanding what they do. Sometimes I learn what somebody does. I look it up. I learn more about it. You know what I mean? I get to know like kind of the professions of the people that I'm around. And through that, and I had to say to the neurosurgeon, I said, hey, look, in the middle of this deal one time, he got really weird with me. And I was like, look, man, if I have something wrong with my brain, well, something more than, it's normally wrong with it. And I need a neurosurgeon, I'm going to you and I'm doing what you say. This is my job. So if you want it done the best, I would suggest you do what I say, because it's going to work. And he did, and it worked. You know what I mean? So it's, number one, I believe that. And even if I don't believe it, I'm very good at acting like I believe it. But number two, it's real. Like, this is our world. And I hear Mark sometimes talk about how I think, and I know I'm guilty of this, we'll assume that like people know as much about the market as we do because we're saturated in everything. They really don't. A lot of people don't know a lot about interest rates. They don't know that, when inventory's like, they don't know that stuff. And there's a lot of things within the contract they think they know, and they don't. I've had to school some lawyers up on legalese terms in the contract and what it actually means, because they'll way overthink it. It's like, no, it's very simple. So be the expert in your field and have respect for what they do in theirs, and those things can mutually start working off each other really well. Most are eccentric in their own ways. Learn about, lean into your own eccentricity. And obviously I don't have a hard time with that, what I mean? But it's really like, one of the things that works for me with a lot of these people is I'm a character, and I show up and I make it happen, and I make it fun, and it's a thing. And so it's not just like, this is the guy doing my real estate. It's like, he's my agent. And if you guys understand the difference, that's a big difference, not only in this transaction, but for life, which is what I'm shooting for. Was it Brian Denny that said the sale begins after the close? Which one of those guys said that? I love that, because that's how I'm thinking while I'm going through what I'm going through. Is it's like, I want to be connected to these people for a long time. They're used to respect, show respect, and also expect it from them. This is a huge one, because like I said, I do respect what these guys do, but they're not better than me just because they make a lot of money poking livers. You know what I mean? It's like, everybody's got their thing, and we're really not our jobs anyway. Hopefully not, because that's not real happiness. So I look at it more like, now, I am going to respect you, but I expect you to respect me too. And sometimes these guys are used to bogart. You get a lot of deep personalities in this world, right? And they're used to bogarting, pushing, getting in their way. And I will give it to them when it's appropriate. But there are times that I got to stand up to these guys, go, look, you're not listening. You're saying the same thing over and over again. And you know what the definition of insanity is? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting result. I've had clients get mad at me, go, let's talk later. And I'm okay, and I'll wait. Because sometimes there's certain things that I have to stand my ground with these people, because a lot of these guys are testers, and guys, girls, whatever, but they're testers. And if you don't push back a little bit, they'll just figure they can always get their way. The brain surgeon client I had, he's awesome and he's brilliant, man. But he is so used to everybody working for him. Right. There's a thing, and I helped out with some different things. There's one, he's like, hey, I need you to do this. And I go, no, you need to get someone else to do that. And he's like, oh, okay. And it wasn't like this thing, but it's like, I mean, you're afraid to push back sometimes because you don't think, but it's like that you got to. If they think that you're just another kind of pawn for them, then they'll treat you like that. That's been my experience. Don't just arbitrarily push back on something for the reason, but it's like you gotta be good at timing that shot. And I think that nuance is a huge piece of this, my opinion. They must are looking for them to be their realtor. That's kind of what I was talking about, be their agent, not just you're the guy for this transaction. I have one right now that I thought, the guy that I was talking about that goes and door knocks for himself, this guy did not like me. I mean, he basically told me as much. And he's like, well, you can talk to my wife, because he was being obnoxious. He was like, I'm like freaking out on me. And I had to be like, I won't say his name. We'll say Larry. Okay. I was like, Larry, you got to stop like getting angry at me and freaking out on me. He's like, well, that's just who I am. I was like, I understand, but who I am is somebody who doesn't like to be talked to like that. This is a real conversation. And it was a little bit more heated than that. Okay. He's like, well, just talk to my wife. It's fine. Deal with the inspection stuff with her. Right. And so I talked to his wife and I became besties, like, and I knew exactly what I was doing. And then he kind of slowly came back into the fold. And now he calls me, he goes, hey, I door knocked on this place. But he's retired golf pro. He's just a personality. Right. So, but I think that stance changed our relationship. And we ended up mutually releasing on a place. So I was like, I don't know, this guy may just cut me loose, but our relationships got better. So that stance really, I think, was the turning point in that. Okay. I love this one. A lot of people, when they start out, when they go in like to luxury houses, you can't act like it's the first nice house you've been in. These guys have been in a lot of nice houses. They're friends. So if you go in and go, oh my God, an island, like they're going to go, you good for this? You know what I mean? You just got to be aware, like, even if it's okay to go, oh, this is really nice or that, but act like you've been there before, act like you've been there before, and then call somebody, go, oh my God, you should have seen it. I've done that a bunch of times, and I've been in a lot of these houses and I still get like, oh my God. Now that said, if it's something really over the top, I will go, oh my dude, I have not seen it, because I've been in 30 luxury and I've not seen it. You know what I mean? And it is that much cooler, and it's okay to point that out. But yeah, and that's not just with houses. That's when people start talking money and they start doing things, even if it shocks you a little bit, be good at acting like it doesn't. Make sense? I think we covered the intense personalities one, but there's I can give you a lot of stories. Matt can give you a lot of stories. Neil, some of these guys, they're deep personalities, and they are the word that goes with that D. A lot of them, they really are, because it's direct is what I meant. Yeah. I'm editing myself. That's really good for me, guys. You understand? Try not to curse. So it's I think I said the S word. But it is really important to not take that stuff personally. And I'm telling you, it goes miles when these guys have been able to get away with, a lot of them, just saying inappropriate stuff, being those guys, bullying people, all of that. And some of it I let go, like I said, because it doesn't matter. I don't need to win every fight with them. But some of them, it's like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be treated like that. And giving that message and come from strength with it. It's like, I understand you got a lot. I'm not one of them. That's not going to happen. And they respect them, and they really do. And I'm willing to risk the relationship for that sometimes, because I'm not going to be locked in. I don't care how much this guy pays me, to being his subservient. It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? And usually, like I said, it's not going to work out well anyway if you don't stand up to him. So, all right. Get to know your person, not the commission. It's a good one-liner. Focus on your client's needs. Don't let the price tag distract you. We kind of talked about that. And I say invest in the relationship. That's not just, hello, I am calling to talk to you, relationship person. It's get to know them, get to know their kids' names, learn their hobbies, know where they went to school. Like, I'll call one of my clients up when Ohio State's playing, because he's a you know what I mean? Especially if they're losing, I'll give him hell, you know what I mean? But it's just know your people and allow them to be in your thought process. So when something goes down, you pick up the phone and call them. It's very, very key. And I think that's true on any level of real estate. I think that's what makes a good agent, is somebody who has that kind of connection with people. Be their trusted advisor, which means know your stuff, which means be willing to tell them if you think they're doing something wrong. All of those pieces, and the way I lay that out with people is like, look, my job is to tell you what I think, not to tell you what to do. And if I think you're making a bad choice, I'm going to say, I think that's a bad choice. Doesn't mean you can't do it. And as long as it's not illegal or unethical, I'll write whatever you want me to. But I'm just going to prepare your expectation. I don't think we're going to get this at, whatever the deal is. So, Many luxury home buyers take longer. I kind of said that they take longer because they, like I said, they already live in a nice house. They already have nice things. You know what I mean? So in order for them to make a move or do something different, it's going to have to be something better than what they have. So, and they're spending a ton of money. You know what I mean? It's like, and I'll forget that, and I'll get impatient. But sorry, Angela's making me laugh. What was that?
I was trying to do something.
You're the best person ever. All right, so Angela I love Angela. So those of you at home can't see Angela's making me laugh. But it's interesting because it's like I used to get impatient with this. I had to stop and go, why have I? It's like it takes time, and that's when you have a good pipeline. Like I've got buyers that they're gonna buy from me at some point, and I start thinking in ways of like this will be good next year. I mean, it's okay. I mean, this will be good in January. It's fine. And it's having that comfort. And I think that when we're in that kind of acceptance zone, our responses in real time stuff to people is way better. Way better. I'm not subtle with my emotions sometimes. I have to be very aware of like, I can't let that leak because I'm afraid of something. And I think that's worth all of us being aware of a lot. All right. So all of us being aware of a lot. Cover that. Be patient. Some of this is very repetitive, I know, but it's like I said, it's the same material. I just plug it in different places. Be patient. We just covered that. Be ready because this is good. So like I say, be patient. I goes, this person may take forever. I also don't take people at their word of when they say they're going to move, because it too many times has it changed on a dime. Some people go, we're not looking anywhere for like a year and a thing. And then you don't call them for like 6 months. Like, we bought a house a month ago. I was like, wait, what? That taught me early on. But these guys too, it's like, I still do the same. I'm still feeding them. So I still, even if they're not A buyers, I'm reaching out to them and going, hey, I know you're waiting a while, but you see this one? This is pretty cool. And always kind of work in those relationships because you never know when that's going to turn. So you want to stay top of mind with people as much as possible because people change their minds quick. You also got to be ready because some of these guys come in and they're ready to go. They're ready to write an offer on that open house that they just met you at. And that's awesome when you can do that. You know what I mean? So I think it's important to be ready to respond to wherever their needs are at. Again, their needs over our wants. Remember, do not take it personal. They're busy. They don't need you until they need you. And I know we talk about this stuff on all levels, but it's definitely. And I was telling Sarah, one of the best compliments I got lately is I called these guys and I was like, hey, it's been a few months, but I was doing what I just talked about, staying top of mind. And it was like Mike, we will totally call you when we're ready. We're not ready, but it was cool because it was like the way it was written. It was like, of course we'll call you. You're our guy, Now, do I totally trust that? Yes, but I'm still going to check, trust but verify, So will I do it again in 3 months? Absolutely. If I haven't heard from them, and they'll go, Mike, and they'll scold me, and that's fine. And it was kind of tongue in cheek. It was good vibes. You could tell by the way. Oh, help wasn't. But it's staying top of mind, not pushing too much. But I can't tell you the number of people that have been like, I used you because you were a thorn in my side. They'll introduce me to their friends and refer people and go, he's relentless, I mean, and it's in that relentlessness and that stamina is huge. We were talking about stamina is, I think, a very underrated quality that gets a lot of stuff done. If you think about agents that are really successful, I've worked with this guy for 2 years, or this guy's been in my pipeline forever. And it's like, and again, I'm not going to put all my energy on them, but I am going to give them some, and I'm going to make sure. And even if they're a Q buyer, right? They're the C minus, right? I want them to feel as special when I connect with them as an A buyer. Do I always pull that off? No, but I'm cognizant of that because it doesn't take any more time to be my best, right? It doesn't. It's like I can call them for 20 seconds and go, hey, and walk through it. I can go, hey, and do my thing. Time's the same. And who knows that I may call them on the day. They go, oh my God, I was looking for your number, and then yeah, we're ready to move now. Okay, cool. You never know. So I try to do that showtime in each of those things too, not just on the big stuff.
Well, you're saying anyone can be great for a day or a week,
yeah,
or a month.
Yeah.
Can you be great for a year?
Yes.
Can you go great until they need you because they're not ready till they're ready?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean that's.
Yes. What Sarah was saying, in case people online couldn't hear is she was talking about anybody can be great in the moment, but can you be great long term? Can you suit up and show up with that same energy for a year and a half every time you connect with them as you can when they're early in a hot lead, And I've also given up, I've learned humility with thinking I'm always going to understand what a hot lead is. It's just, and I think that's good. I think that's good for, it's like, so if I'm just my best with every one of them, then I'm not gonna miss. I am truly doing my part with that. I mean, how many of us have had an A buyer that turns into a year and a half because there's a thing and a deal and this guy got sick and that deal, whatever, or one that's in, deep in, like I had this one yesterday reach out and go, the husband called on voice pad, but I've been reaching out to the wife. And I was like, dude, I've been calling your wife. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know. Yeah, let's see this place Friday. And they've been in my Sierra for a while. So it's like, you never know who it's going to
The
be.
one that, like you said, that you meet
Yeah.
and they want to buy that
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
So you just have to be ready to be present.
Got to be ready.
Yeah.
And it's hard. And it's, I think one of the bigger challenges is no matter what you got going on, being able to hit that showtime spot. And I am blessed. And I will say this, doing what I did for years as a counselor, it's not like I can go in and this family's in crisis and I go, I'm sorry, guys, I'm having a bad day. Maybe, we'll do later. It's like I didn't have that luxury. And I do treat this very similar to that. I've had to learn to back off a little bit because I go, it's ultimately not as life urgent. And let's be honest, right? So I had to learn to peel the drama back a little bit, but the intensity of connection and the willingness to suit up and show up, I think can be as intense, right? So that's good stuff. I think that's a really important piece. People are busy, keep the relationship going because a lot of millionaires like to move multiple times. I touched on that, but it's true. I mean, people just get bored. They like to buy investment properties. They go, oh, I want to buy a place out by the lake. You know what I mean? I got a guy right now. He bought a place in when I met at an open house. We rode on it that night. We didn't get it. It was one of Neil's. We got him a better house out here in the valley. It's ridiculous. And now he's going, I think I want to be in the bubble. I want to be, my kids say it's too far out here west. They're not even home. It's like, dude, you just want to move. Just be honest. That's fine. So now we're looking at that. Let's say, and he wants something very specific because he's got a great house. So if he's going to move, it's got to be a Mac Daddy. Barry Sanders. Just want to say Barry Sanders. That's it. I'm leaving it at that. No, that's the whole act like you've been there before. And that's true with a deal. That's true with big numbers. That's true with going in the house and seeing an island for the first time. Whatever the deal is, market knowledge. It's just act like you know it. And I'm also okay with if somebody does bring up something new, because I'm comfortable in, like, I stay pretty up to speed on high-end cabinets and things, but they change and the new guy comes on. It's like, and if somebody goes, I go, I haven't heard of them. I know this, and this, but it's okay also to be humble and learn from these guys. I have some buyer. I mean, they've been looking at every kind of cabinet for 6 months and they know more than I do because I haven't looked at it as much as they have. It's okay to go, I do this a lot, but no, that's a new one. I'll check it out. And then I go back to them and go, oh, I checked that out. They're like McPherson or whatever, I mean, the thing is, so I really want somebody named McPherson. All right. So skills. Is that right? Yeah. I keep going 2 pages at a time. All right. I did go too far. Stop. All right, there we go. Know the market better than anyone. And this is something, Matt Lamb is one of my absolute heroes when it comes to this. Cause I mean, that dude helped me it's like, I have searches set up in Maris for each individual area I want to know about. And then I also set one up for every client. So yes, I get the same listing 4 times somewhere. That's fine. Cause it's hard to go click, 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 and erase it 3 times. It's easy, right? And knowing this stuff is huge. Now, I will admit, like, for the most part, I'm pretty good at firing back, like, oh, that's in this neighborhood. And I don't know it as well as Neil does. I'm a lot better than I used to be. And that I think does come with time, but I'm also okay with going, I do know that. Let me look at that. And I also go, I do know that one. Let me double check. So I have a lot of houses in my head. So I don't have to be like everything all the time, but it's interesting. The longer I do this, the more I can just fire those streets off. And it's actually really cool. No different schools, especially in elementary schools, with your younger buyers. It's not just high schools, because I knew all those when I started from what I did before, but learn all the middle schools, elementary schools, country clubs, streets, all of that stuff's important. Good restaurants. and it's in here somewhere, but I'll throw it in here too. Just, I don't know how else to say this, but like high-end topics, right? Because a lot of these guys like to talk about like, I mean, watches and cars and things and deals. They have money, they don't know what to do with it. So they talk about stuff there. And it's always good to know some nuggets like, oh, I saw that. Did you see this thing? Just relating to their world. You know what I mean? No different than anything else, and we're actually in the Rob report. If you ever read that thing, that's pretty amazing because it's not just houses, it's all kinds of high-end stuff. You know what I mean? There's all kinds of things like that. I read the Mansions Globe, I do all of that. I'll look at stuff in other cities and things, just conversationally going, look, I know this market,
Ladue
and-
News.
oh yeah, Ladue News is great.
Yeah.
I drive the areas. I did this when I started. I used to preview a lot of it's a little harder to preview because it's getting easier now because things go pretty fast. But I preview a lot of different stuff, and it wasn't just to see the houses. I want to know the neighborhoods. I want to know what connected to what. And the luxury areas in St. Louis, they're not that big. There's not that many, you know what I mean? But understand there is a difference in Frontenac and Ladue and a Clayton buyer and a Valley buyer. And I mean, I have clients that if I even mention going west of 270, they go, and they give me stink eye. But I got one of them to move to Chesterfield Valley. So, I don't give up on that either necessarily. Because I am willing to go, I know you want to be in this, but you don't need the school district. You can get like way more house, and I'll just show them some stuff, and they'll start going, okay, let's go look at one of those. That was the neurosurgeon. He wasn't going to be this side of 270, and he got this ridiculous house off of Will's Trace. It's awesome. And it's being willing to know it, to listen to them, but also challenge them, because if I take a buyer and like a bunch of the Stinkies in Ladue, that's like, they're the old Ladue houses. They're like $1.2 million, and one owner's lived there because they were built so well, but they're so dated. And obviously one owner lived there until the end, right? Like, and they're like, this is what I get. Like, for this money you can get, and they start going, really, now some people, no way, like they gotta be in that school district. That's the thing. And it's funny because people move into the Ladue school district and send their kids to Burroughs. It's like you could do this from Chesterfield, it's just funny, but people want what they want. And some people, it's interesting. I've noticed a lot of transplants move here, and somebody said be in Ladue schools, and that's all they'll listen to. No matter what, being Ladue schools, no matter what, right? And they're not wrong. It's not like, one, the schools are great, but also living in those properties, like living in an IRA, because they mature, because everybody wants to be in that area. So, it's knowing all those little nuances, knowing those things. I have a running CMA in the areas that you hunt. And what I mean by that is it's not just, I turned that down a little bit low. Sorry, it's a little cold. Sorry. I'm a hot Scotsman. So, but I always have kind of not just, and I don't just mean technically on here, it's like, it's always running in my head too. Like I want to know comparables, and they move quick nowadays, and in the luxury market, if it's like, you can look at CMAs, go, this sold for this sold for that. It's also knowing that if it's a new property and it's got all this newfangled stuff, it's going to go way over, and you got to be aware of that. All right, talkie. I think I covered all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did. That-
Relationship,
you
good
didn't even
luxury.
know it. That you did not.
This,
The pool, well, okay.
Yeah,
What did you-
this is just, I was talking about just know like what relates to a high-end property. I cover like cabinet makers, I like to know the luxury builders, so if people want to do that, but also pools, because pools are a big deal for a lot of people that are spending money on houses. So I talk about the new kinds of pools and all that, and know the ins and outs. Fun stuff to study too. We talked about the different kinds of buyers. I think we actually did cover all this. That's
Yeah,
pretty good.
yeah.
Questions? Anything I can answer?
Go back. So,
Go back to
go
Q&A.
forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Questions? Anything anybody wants to ask? Debate? Disagree with? Okay.
When you feel like you kind of had a niche for selling the big dough, but what made you kind of just feel like, yeah, you know what, like I can do this, and kind of connect really well.
I started there. I'm not like, I think my third deal was Rutherford, which was 1.6. And I met them. I had this house, Horton, that I mean, I lived there. Like they could have charged me rent because I did every open house, and this thing was on the market for months. So I started out and I did, kind of some normal deals, but I told my second deal was like a $650,000 house. So I was like, it's fine. Right. And I told Mark, I was like, I want to sell luxury homes. He's like, well, and he gave me the right, it takes time in this. And I went to Neil and I was like, let me start previewing some of these. The very first house Neil let me preview, I set the alarm off. That was great. And I'd been on the team for like a month and a half, but he's like, hey dude, the alarm's not on. And I go over there and it's like, boop, boop. And so it wasn't, I'm like, I didn't know. Right. It's kind of funny, but early on. And once I did it, I was like, I can do it. And then Mark was pretty much like, well, yeah, anybody can do it once. And truth, transparent, my ego got involved. So the next one I did, same price point, you know what I mean? And it was right before COVID happened. Then COVID happened at that. So it was kind of a weird time period. But I mean, the short answer to that is that's what I got in. When I got into real estate, I said, I'm going to sell luxury houses. It was like, that was the plan. Yeah. When did I know I could do it well? As I sold a couple.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips on being that authentic and unique you? Like how you're able to bring the personality out and like not be a customer service person?
That's a great question. I'm going to say it back just so in case people can, do I have any tips on bringing out the authentic you rather than being as you said, customer service person? That's good. I think I learned a long time ago, just be comfortable in my own skin. Like, this is who I am. This is what you see is what you get, and doesn't mean I don't get afraid of things. I mean, I don't get that. But for me, I have a genuine part of me that loves serving people. Like, when I get into explaining something to people, I get into doing something for somebody, I get really into it. Right. And I love that. And I like the escape for me to get into you. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And I think when I do that, then my natural personality will come through. I think that's true for anybody. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's so it's really not like this technique as much as it's not making it about me. Yeah. Good question though.
I think that's when you become natural as a real estate.
Yeah. What else, guys? Good questions.
Let me see if you have a question.
Huh? Oh, did one come up?
Tell them I'll post a recording on Agent Nation.
Okay, Sarah's gonna post a recording on Agent Nation.
Yep.
Would I see questions on here, or do they come up over there?
Yeah.
All right, sweet. Anything else?
So are you the one who's out looking for the properties, or do they come to you? I mean, because it is a limited market. So how do you find them, the properties?
Oh, I mean, I'm like I said, so I have searches set up in MLS in different areas, things like that. I know my clients. I really learned this from Matt. I get up, and one of the first things I do in the morning is I look through what's popped. Now there's not a lot of houses. I've got them kind of memorized at this point. You know what I mean? So I do that. I go through that. I look what connects to what. I send stuff out to people. But I have clients that are pretty sharp. I mean, they're sending them to me sometimes a second. Like, I'll be driving and it'll be on something for 10 seconds and they'll send it. So it's both. But for the most part, I'm leading that. Yeah. Anything else?
I think the piece for you about process versus outcome is the biggest thing. Like, you don't ever focus on the transaction, you focus on the relationship.
Yep.
And that's probably based off your background.
Yeah.
And wanting to really understand someone is always really a goal of yours.
Yes.
And I think that translates heavily into your business. And because you have no fear of people of wealth and influence,
right,
you're just naturally attracted to those individuals because
right,
you're so curious about
absolutely
the way that they think. And then you're able to naturally help them get what they want because you care about what's important to them.
I appreciate that. I think that's a good description. I will say this though too, and this is important. It's not that like what's in it for me doesn't creep in there. I mean, that totally creeps in there. You know what I mean? I'm like, ooh, you know what I mean? It's like, that's normal. But I am conscious of that. Number one, I'm not ashamed of it because I'm like, hell yeah, I want to make a lot of money. What's wrong with that? Right. That's what we're doing here. Right. Isn't that the purpose? There's a lot more just purely altruistic things out there you could do if that's your goal. But it's like, I think being able to do that, which is such a service to ourselves, to be of service to someone else, and to get paid for that. I mean, how is it cool? How is there anything better than that? That's just amazing. You know what I mean? It's like, I can help people and make money doing it. That's awesome. So what I do is I have a process when I know myself, if it starts affecting the way I'm talking, when I'm making it too much about me, I'm very aware of that. And I deal with it and I recognize it. Sometimes I talk to people. I call what I call that turning that over. I let go of that and then I make it about them again. You know,
We have a question. Do you have a big demand for off market for luxury in our market? They're asking.
the question was, is there a big demand for off market? Yes. And there's not there in my, now, one of the things, and I didn't cover this, thanks for reminding me that. One of the pieces we missed is about having relationships with other luxury agents. I think that's one little section we passed over. That's what I do. So I call agents that I've worked with, because there's not a giant pool of them. You know, I mean, people, there's Clayton people, there's Ladue people. I call and I ask them every once in a while, like, hey, you got anything? And they'll call me sometimes if they have something new coming up, because I've asked enough. Call Mary Beth Bennett. It's like all these people, you know what I mean? And so that's one way that I kind of keep abreast of what's going on. I haven't done any door knocking on. I want to do that again because I have people that want to be in specific areas, but there's not been a lot of off market stuff in a lot of the luxury areas, because I've asked, I've looked in my own way. I've called, expireds, done all kinds of stuff like that, and I haven't found a ton, but honestly, when I get really busy, I do less of that, and that's probably something I could be better at being consistent with. But yeah, I mean, there is demand for it. But I haven't had like a trove of those as of late. So
What's the most difficult thing for you? Like, what would you say is something that just pops up as a challenge over and over again?
100 unequivocally, it's consistency with my schedule. 100%. I'd never have a problem with showtime. Like I could, be off my game and go show up and be great with another person, but it's doing the consistent day to day, doing things in the time frame that I'm supposed to do them. And then I end up having to cram later in the day, things like that. So mine is, and probably always will be that. It will be that discipline to schedule, Yeah. It's better. And I think I'm actually a lot better with it. I was on a good roll with it. And then of course I got sick, and it's just always this cycle. There's always a reason.
That's.
But part of it is,
busier, the better
but
it is to
part of
stay
it is
busy.
when I'm busy, like, but it's like, but I can still take 15 minutes in a day and do better at looking for more off market stuff. Like that's something that's on my board. That's why I answered it the way I did. I'm honest. It's like, I've had success with it, but not a ton like some people, because I'm not as diligent in that area. That's honest. And there's things like that where it's not, here's where I run into trouble with schedule. It's not that I don't want to do those things or that I don't do those things. It's that I got to be realistic. If I'm really busy, cool, then just do 30 minutes of it that day. Like just do some. And that's where it's either do 2 hours or don't do it for me. And that's an inaccurate mentality to continue to grow my business. So I'm trying to work, I am working on that of, I'll just do a shorter period of it, so, which seems to help,
You're definitely someone who you are a natural connector with others. And then there's only so much bandwidth to do follow-up with all
Right.
of those connections.
Yes.
So just your organization of pipeline is something that is a great. I think
Yes.
you've done a lot better with that.
I still got a
And
ways to go though.
Everyone,
Yeah.
because we only have so much energy within us. And when you're doing all of those activities, that actually depletes energy. So then the problem is, how do I then ramp back up my energy to stay consistent, knowing that that's what's ultimately going to make me successful while still protecting some of that
Yeah.
energy as well. So
Sarah's helped me a lot with this recently, because a couple months ago, we started talking, and my pipeline looked like the closet in your house you don't want to go into. You know what I'm saying? There's so much just hoarded in there,
load.
and it's better. I still got some work to do, but something I really started to realize is I got all this gold in there, and the problem is it's gold bars buried under socks. You know what I mean? So like I can't even get the value out of that. And the problem is I was trying to do everything right. Now I'm spinning all these plates. Remember the old like right? And they're crashing. And I'm going, by getting rid of some leads, I can actually just focus on fewer, which means I can extract the gold. Will I let go of one that may have been a good deal? Yeah, it's going to happen. But I also have run across people that bought houses that had I had less leads in there, I would have been able to reach it. So, I mean, it's being realistic with my bandwidth and not thinking I'm going to follow up with 137 leads. Like, I mean, it's like I'm better to, I love Mark's post recently, slow down to go fast. That's a lot of what I'm learning to do. I'm learning to go, what do I want to do in what's really important? Where are the deals really coming from? Where am I really, and being honest with myself, not going, I can do everything always. No, I can't. And then the things I'm good at get watered down by the things I'm not pulling off, which is not cool. So, yeah. Cool. Thank you, guys. Yay.
Right?
Absolutely. It was fun. Can I leave this now?